This week for the Savour Stories, I'm here in Thomastown. I'm talking to Ger Kirwan on the award-winning Goatsbridge Trout Farm. Now, the farm started 58 years ago, and Ger and his wife Mag are the second generation. Ger, how did it evolve from humble beginnings to being such a major food enterprise that it is today?
Okay, Siobhan, you're very welcome. I suppose the origins of the farm are that my parents were going to get married, and my mother was a civil servant, actually resigned, of course, a teacher in the local school. And my father then was running a pretty small agricultural farm. So we did have this resource, which is the river, the little Arigal running through our farm. And my great-grandfather took over and ran a corn mill here, and subsequently my grandfather ran it. And it dates back to the 1860s up to 1913. So then you had this resource, as I say, this mill stream sitting idle. And my parents read about fish farming starting in the States, and they thought maybe there might be something in that for us. So they set about then researching it, and at the same time, interestingly, they were researching about starting a meat farm. So they were really desperate to try and find something maybe alternative or different. So they actually started then, we say, a small 5-pond unit in '62. As well as starting a very small meat farm. So after a couple of years they had a review and they decided to concentrate on trout. The farm here at Goatsbridge then was expanded in '66 and subsequently expanded in the early '70s. We then bought another site for a fish farm on another river, the Arigal, the one that rises back up Mr. Lynn and comes down just between Thomastown and Kilkenny.
Keeping it all in Thomastown.
Yeah, well, at the start anyway, you know. So we set that farm up then in '87. I came back into the business at that stage. I had done engineering in UCD. Met Mag then in college, and she's a Goatsbridge girl and a scientist, a biochemist by profession. So we kind of both then started working in the business at 1990, got married in '91. So should never look back really after that, you know.
And what's unique about the business?
I think, the fact that we've got it to a stage that we now have an integrated business, so that we actually control, right from the egg stage or the input stage all the way through the cycle.
So the whole control channel.
Yeah. So we then have that raw material to use for the fresh market, and also laterally in recent years for the development of a lot of added value products. So I'd say that you take a farmer, he's one part of the chain, but he doesn't actually have full control on the full chain. Whereas in our case, you're actually that's what I think makes it a bit unique.
Now, you're talking about the value-added products. Everyone is saying that you've got one product like an apple, or in your case a trout. It's adding on to that product that is really a seller to the market.
Yeah, well, I suppose the thing is that we are trout farmers, so we've got this rainbow trout as a raw material. So in its infancy, it was a situation where you sold rainbow trout to hotels and restaurants, in the '60s, so what was a kind of a tourist season between March and October. That then grew into a more of an all-year-round business with the advent of more sales through fishmongers and supermarkets. Today the supermarkets have big control on fresh fish sales, so they're probably selling in the order of 60%, 70% of all wet fish sales. So you see, that fresh product then would have been in the early years all round fish. There was no processing whatsoever. So then we started gutting the fish, and you'd say, okay, added value, but really it became a kind of a given that the fish was gutted. So then another year or two went by, and people were interested in, they don't one of the problems with fish is bones and smell. So the thing is, people are saying, oh, can you give it to me without the bone? So then you start to develop the fillet. So then we say, that was evolved further in that, you had a range of sizes. So people wanted a large trout for one particular, for maybe a medium-sized trout for their lunch, and they wanted a small small trout for the kids, and so you know, so like and like I suppose tomatoes or apples are the same. You'll have small apples, medium apples, big apples. So like the added value stuff, then we say we started to like we said, smoked fish, and smoked trout was, you know, a popular product. So then you know, you started to maybe look at portioning. So you start to say, right, 100-gram packs. So the smoke, you know, and there's different types of smoke. Then there's bespoke stuff, and there's own label stuff, and there's, you know.
And so what you have today is the famous trout pâté to the caviar. So it really evolved from just deboning and filleting the fish to all of this.
Yeah, and like we're just about to launch, like you know, we're working very on a natural trout, on a fish trout.
Wow.
So like we're using the raw materials, the bones,
Irish dish
to make the stock.
Okay.
So like there's other, like, you know, there's other interest in other parts of the fish for other products. So like we're collaborating with a local company at the moment, trying to develop using you know, the meat recovery to you know, add to pet food. So,
and who do you supply?
good question. Yeah. So I suppose you're in the market to supply everyone. Like, but like how the thing has evolved is like food service, fish wholesalers, you know, catering companies, supermarkets, you know, both in Ireland and, you know, in the UK in the last number of years. You know, and really, like we're doing some live fish sales for restocking ponds. So like it's a kind of a full cross section, and it probably has to be like that for you to survive, because as one, you know, in business prospers, maybe other sectors of our business, maybe, you know, I think it's probably important to be flexible and to be able to adjust to the trends. So,
well, sure, talk about trends and supplying to the UK. What's going to happen in your Brexit?
Yeah, so at the moment, we sell 4 SKUs to Sainsbury's in the UK. Again, that started almost as an experiment, but it has grown into being a very important part of our business. Like we're dispatching from here like 3 days a week, maybe, and so like we've got a number of aspects to look after. You've got your logistics in getting the stuff to the UK. So some of our products are in a frozen form, so it's possible that maybe you'll build up a little stock and all the rest in those ones. But like, I mean, we've been working very closely with the various bodies, Borbia, Bordis Kiwara, and people in our sector, and you know, we're up to date with our responsibilities, but like there's still, you know, massive uncertainty in getting it all, and it's, you know, it's getting close now, and you know, nothing is signed off. Okay. So but like the tariff end of things is going to pose further problems, because, you know, what might have been previously marginal lines maybe are, you know, can run into, you know, maybe loss-making lines, and I think that's going to put a lot of pressure. Currently, like, best information we have is our caviar will have a tariff of 20%. Right. Our smoked fish will have a tariff of 14%, and our pâté will have a tariff of 6%.
Right. Okay.
Like logistics and the way we've done things in the past, you know, that's all out the window. You've got to get in with like logistics partners. Disadvantage for companies like ourselves is maybe we're not big enough. You know, the larger companies, what they're trying to do is secure full loads. They're not really interested in consolidation. Okay. So there's there's still a lot of working out to do on it.
A lot to do, and a lot to do next year. But like just what you've gone through this year, your food, your supply, and your demand would have been heavily dependent on the tourism market as well.
Yeah.
So, like from lockdown 1 to lockdown 2, what challenges did you come upon?
Yeah, well, I suppose you know, no more than any company really. Like you know, when you're faced with the pandemic and, you know, your responsibilities. The first thing we saw was like the whole food service sector, and Borbia, I think this week came out with a survey saying that it reduced by 50%. So we would have felt that it reduced probably maybe by more, like you know, in the early. So it went to 1/3 of what it was, and that then gradually came back to about half. So we've got like an integrated business, so it expects to sell a certain amount of fish every week, and when you're not selling that fish, well then that builds up in the ponds. You've got a backlog, so the system is kind of choked. So like there's a challenge on the farm, then there's a challenge in sales as to how you're going to handle the fish and how you're going to process them and where you're going to sell them. So like we've put our shoulders to the wheel, our staff have cooperated massively. Like we've worked with the various agencies, and the thing is we're still in business, but like you find that you kind of got it on a reasonably even keel, and then we're into lockdown 2, and like it has certainly been more challenging this time around. Everyone is a little bit worried, a little concerned. Like there's no real the normal order of business is upset, and you can expect anything. And I suppose that's we're adjusting accordingly every day. But like we have some plans to develop the farms. We have some plans and all that. And, we have to review lots of stuff as we go, because the uncertainty is, if you had one uncertainty, it would be one thing, but we're hit with like Brexit and COVID at the same time. I think it's certainly very, very challenging, so.
And sure, there's another generation now, 4 young Kirwans coming up behind me, one in university already. Would you recommend them to go into this, or what would you say to young people that are thinking of going into the food industry?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose probably the important thing is you've got to, sometimes in like family business situations, the big problem is, it's in your blood and you eat, sleep and drink it and all of that sort of stuff, but like you do need to get away, you do need to educate yourself, and you need to want it as well. So there's no point in, you work in a family business, you probably feel and you aspire that maybe someone would come in and take it over and continue the work that has been put in place, but like it's just a bit early for us yet. Like the kids are still 14 to 20, but I mean there are like certainly aspects of working for yourself that I would recommend, and I know no other way. So I suppose let's see. I mean I think the bigger picture is that your kids are have good values and good work ethic, and I think all the rest of it will fall into place. So
that I'm sure they have, coming from the 2 parents they have. Now, last question, and you better get this one right. Who's your biggest support?
I suppose the thing, I come from like a family business. My parents started it, worked side by side and built it up. Mag would similarly have come from a similar background with the Goatsbridge horse sales, and so Mag, I wouldn't be able to do what we're doing without her, and and I'd hope she'd probably say the same. So that's, I mean, it's not easy working like husband and wife team, but sure, like if you look around and you look at your achievements and you look at the successes and all the rest, sure, like it could be a lot worse, couldn't it?
There you go. You gave the politically correct answer, and Mag would be delighted with that, I'm sure. Ger, thanks a million for having us. And if Mag was here today, she would say, eat trout.